Welcome to our city. I'm Alonzo Jones singing for Mayor Chris Bowich. Here's what's going on this week around our city. First, I would like to remind everyone that tomorrow, June 8th, is Election Day. Please remember to vote. The polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, don't forget to vote tomorrow on Election Day. On Wednesday, June 9th at 1 p.m., Mayor Bowich will attend the grand opening of the Mirror Tires and Auto Center. The ribbon cutting will take place at 455 Trinity Place. Later that evening at 6:30 p.m., Mayor Bowich will attend the YMYWHA pre-installation dinner. The dinner will be held to thank their outgoing president, Mark Bloomberg, and welcome their new president, Roanna Posture. The annual meeting and dessert reception will follow at 7:30 p.m. For more information, please call 908-289-8112, extension 14. On Thursday, June 10th at 9:30 a.m., Mayor Bowich will attend the DARE graduation ceremony at Woodrow Wilson School number 19. If you need more information concerning this or any other events this week, please call the Public Information Office at 908-820-4124. Today we are talking to the Elizabeth Historical Society about Elizabeth history. For months, the HSE has researched the Bayway neighborhood and will present its findings in an Elizabeth Forum at the Belcher-Ogden Mansion, which is located at 1046 East Jersey Street here in Elizabeth. That will take place next Thursday, June 10th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The forum is entitled Bayway, the Classic Industrial Neighborhood. So I want to thank and welcome Mr. Paul Mattingly. How are you, Paul?
I'm fine, thank you, Alonzo.
Yeah. Now, you're the president and trustee of the Historical Society.
Yes, I am. Right.
And how long have you been in that seat?
The hot seat. Since 2007, I've been president.
Okay.
My predecessors, they were co-presidents, Orlando Adrera, after whom one of the schools is named, and Nida Thomas, who sadly passed away 2 years ago. Okay. But they gave us really a good start and a good boost, and I'm doing my best to try to maintain the pace.
Well, I know Nida was a big advocate for history, and
she was indeed.
So she's
a great help. A great help. She was actually the first person that we formally interviewed in our oral history collection, and we've now done over 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, before we begin talking about the upcoming forum, can you explain how your organization advances New Jersey's history by focusing on Elizabeth?
Yes. I think it's important for our viewers to know that the facilities, the Bonnell House at 1045 East Jersey, and across the street, the Belcher-Ogden Mansion, two very important, significant historical residences, are under our care, and we are preserving them. That's one of our major purposes. But we are not and will not be a museum. We are not a public facility. We are trying to direct our attention not only to the preservation of these facilities, but to rewrite the 20th century history of the city. We are taking the complete sweep from the colonial period to the present, something that usually museums don't do. They usually target a so-called significant period, and they have, it becomes very costly to try to woo people in to look at whatever artifacts you've collected, and once they've seen them, you know, there's not a lot of return. This is a problem that plagues a lot of historical societies and museums. We don't have that problem. We're taking the entire history, and each year we do something new. But when we find out something, the public has access to it immediately because of our website. Okay. They can go to the website and find out what we have been doing. So it's not necessary for us to be a public facility with regular hours and staffers. What we actually do is to rent the space of these facilities to other nonprofit organizations so that we can sort of maintain ourselves self-sufficiently. And we also have a ground floor where we had an event on June 2nd, which we let out usually free of charge to many other organizations. Block Watchers, the Board of Education has some of its facilities meet there. Occasionally City Hall groups meet there. But it is a public place. It has free parking adjacent. It's very convenient. And we see that our task is to use these historic facilities as a civic resource, as indeed we think history itself is.
Now, what resources does the New Jersey Historical Society have for Elizabeth's past?
Well, The main facility that we have is our commitment to do a new history, to follow professional standards. We are not a group of amateurs. We are actually plugging into the existing professional discourses on what makes a small city great, for example. And what we are trying to do is not just accumulate images or existing information on the city, but we're trying to break new ground to add and refine our existing wisdom. I want to just mention because we both attended the Heritage Tourism program, very fine program, last Wednesday.
Yeah.
But one of the things that was missing from a good deal of all the discussion that I heard was really an equation of history with accumulating knowledge. Knowledge accumulated is important, but history is something different.
Right.
History is an effort to interpret change over time, to make distinctions between how something earlier is quite different from something late, and to try to offer an explanation of it. Heritage tourism will not get off the ground professionally, really, if it's just a show and tell. What we need is a characterization of Elizabeth's distinctive historical past. We need something comparable to Boston as the cradle of the American Revolution, or its upgrade, the home of the bean and the cod. We need something graphic and characteristic like that, that actually represents the changes in the city. We haven't seen anything like that, and you can't do that with postcards.
Okay. Now, when you talk about Elizabeth, you talk about Bayway, Peterstown, you talk about Elmore.
Right.
What goes into finding a specific area that you think is history worthy? Or
well, a lot of our funding actually comes through the good offices of City Hall and the mayor, through the community development block grants. Now that is actually targeting a lower income population, so that is one factor. We have actually had individuals do some of the other more affluent sections, but that's not on CDBG money. What also targets these groups is, in the context of previous work we've done, we now know that there's a neighborhood that is really significant we haven't addressed. Right now there is no history of Bayway. There are historical comments about Bayway. There are many individuals who have experienced the past in Bayway, and what we try to do is to interview them and to rework a different interpretive fabric to make clear what the significance of individual experiences and indeed large events and large corporate experiences have been.
so about what year did we come up with the title Bayway? Do you know, or is that something that's been going on from day one?
I looked at some old 1882 maps, and Bayway is on there, but there are not a lot of residences there. It's mostly empty ground in the 1880s. But I want to talk about that because that land is owned by some very heavy hitters.
So do you think it was farming back then, or what was taking place?
It was empty swamp, and they were using it as they were investment bankers is what they were, and they were expecting Bayway to follow the pattern of Singer.
Okay.
And they really expected corporate America to move in, and it did. And they did really well in this particular exercise. But initially, the section of Bayway begins at the water, it begins at the bay, hence the name, and then it moves inland. It goes through really barren ground. There's nothing there in the center of what is the busiest part of Bayway today.
Okay.
There are a few houses up by what eventually will be Bayway Circle.
Okay.
But eventually, in the interwar period, the older section by the water and a newer section on Routes 1 and 9 begin to approach each other. Right. And there is vigorous development in the 1920s.
Okay. We ask you to take a brief pause. We're going to save some words here. We'll come back and hear some more of this great fact finding. We'll be back in the second half of Our City after these words. Thank you.